Now with you today is best-selling parenting author Michael Grose, and today, Michael, we're talking about child favouritism. Is it okay to have a favourite child?
Oh, Belinda, it's a taboo subject. No one will ever admit it that they have a favourite child. But there's been a couple of studies in Australia recently which suggests that, we do have favourites, that 70% of parents would agree that they did favour a child. And what was more interesting, I thought, that 80% of them said that there was a black sheep they could identify, the least favourite. And I know when we talk to kids, most kids I talk to will say that we'll be able to identify the favourite one in the family. So we think sometimes that we don't favour kids, but there is a little bit of favouritism going on there.
And do you think it changes through the ages of the children? I know at the moment I've got two very boisterous little boys and a quiet little girl that I think over the next sort of 5 years is going to change. Do you think over time it changes?
Yeah, I think a lot of it is about who's it easier to relate to at the time. I think all parents love their kids equally, but sometimes we like them a little bit differently, and I think that's okay. We've got to be able to say that's okay. And you're right. There's certain ages and stages of development where kids are easier to relate to. I know sometimes toddlers, who I call international airports, all activity governed by a very small control tower, can be quite difficult to relate to and to like. We know when kids move into primary school, that's the easy stage, and sometimes dads just love being around their sons at that particular age, whereas they might not spend more time with them when they're a little bit younger. And certainly as they move into adolescence, sometimes the relationship can be rockier, and we just go, you might have one moving into adolescence who's giving you a bit of a hard time, and then you've got one who maybe 7 or 8 who's easy to get on with, and they're the ones who want to go to the footy with you or do whatever it may be. So it's family life's very dynamic, and it's not always a one-way street. So certainly age has something to do with it.
And I also find with my kids, if I take them shopping, for instance, and one needs a new pair of shoes, I end up walking out of the shop with 3 pairs of shoes to make sure that I'm being equally fair to everyone. Is there any way we can, share it more easily?
You are a good mum, aren't you? Yeah, maybe this is a gender difference between you and I. I have that notion that I know it's a silly saying that life's not always fair. We want to be just with our kids, but it don't have to be fair. So, it's your turn to have the shoes, and your turn will come in a couple of months. I know sometimes we'll buy one the shoes, we'll just give them a little present so you don't get left out. Yeah, that's okay. But I think it's a good thing to actually teach kids that it's your brother's turn now, and it'll be your turn in a couple of months, on whatever it might be. So sometimes we turn ourselves upside down,
trying to be fair all the time.
Far too hard. We try to be fair all the time, and so in a way, I'm not sure if that's the greatest parenting.
Hit on the hand to me. No, it is. It's very difficult, isn't it, with kids when you're trying to be fair to everybody.
Yeah, and kids will pester you as well. They'll point that out to you and say, "Look, you bought that for my brother. What about me?" And I think you've got to be fairly tough as a parent and turn around and actually say, "It's your turn next month."
Yeah.
Okay, you need to be able to wait.
Set the boundaries.
Set the boundaries. And I guess the other issue often about favouritism as well is that gender plays a part as well. Often dads and daughters, dads will have a very soft spot for their daughters, particularly their youngest. So I found that most youngest daughters will have their father wrapped around their little finger, and often mothers have a very strong soft spot for their youngest sons as well. So gender plays a part, and we also know sometimes that, look at that black sheep, sometimes it is the middle child. Sometimes middle children can be quite difficult to like, because the first child might be the good one, and there's a reasonable chance the second one might be a little bit of a pest and will really get on mum and dad's nerves. So sometimes they can be the black sheep of the family.
Yeah, and the little one's always the cute little one that's the youngest of the family, is that right?
We tend to hang on to the youngest ones, and quite truthfully, if you say to most parents who's your favourite, it'll often be a young one, because youngest ones, I call them the masters of charm. A lot of the time they're quite easy to like, and they'll often sit at the bottom of the family. They'll look up, particularly as their siblings are moving through some difficult stages, and they'll sit back and they'll go, "Well, I'll be the good one, and I'll make sure that perhaps mum and dad are, sort of like me." And so those youngest ones, the masters and mistresses of charm, can be quite easy to like.
Thank you, Michael. That's some fantastic advice. And you can check out Michael's new book, Thriving.